The driving range is a lie. The place where you go to practice is nothing like the game. And that's why your driving range golf game stays at the driving range. One of the most frustrating things that I've seen in my 34 plus years of being involved in this game is the way the everyday golfer practices the game. Now, I've only been around 34 years, but I believe driving ranges at golf courses are still a reasonably new thing in the game. It's, 60, 70 years old. And they became a place where someone like a Ben Hogan would go and hit his own balls and just the secret's in the dirt is what he used to say. And I just find that really frustrating amongst the average population of golfers, because I'm a golf pro that has been coaching now for probably around about full-time 15 years, but I've been coaching on the course for even longer when I used to play in Pro-Ams and play on the tour, and I was never good enough to be on the full tour on the US tour. That's why you're listening to this guy talking to you now, and you've never heard of me before probably, is because I wasted so much time in my practice at the practice fairway doing the wrong things. And it was so frustrating to me later on in my life now, and as a coach, to realize what I was doing was chasing a perfect swing and the perfect shot. And if I could just sort my golf swing out and get it just right, it would stand up under pressure, and I wouldn't have a problem ever being able to be under pressure in a tournament and make the birdie when I needed to, and away I went. When I look at it now, I know that's just not the case. The game's not like that. And it's not about perfect swings and perfect shots. It's about better problem solving. And so it's one of the biggest myths in the game that frustrates me, because I work at one of the busiest places in Australia, in the Gold Coast, which is one of the busiest places in the country. And I'm pretty much at the biggest driving range on the whole Gold Coast. So, we've got 60 bays, we've got indoor coaching centre, we've got under lights, we've got all sorts. It's an extremely busy facility. So there's hundreds of people running through that place on the practice fairway every day. And so if I stood there and I looked down the range on a given day and watch what probably 95% of people are doing when they go there, they're wasting their time. They are sitting there thinking they are practicing golf, but really what they're doing is practicing hitting balls at a driving range. And that's great if you want to feel better about hitting balls at a driving range. But the point of practicing a game is to get better at the game. And so when you look at a driving range and you compare that to the actual game of golf, that practice you're doing is just a flat out lie. You're lying to yourself. If you stood there with the same club off a flat lie, hitting in the same direction with the same conditions, under shelter, off a rubber mat or a rubber tee, with nothing changing, with nothing really distracting you, maybe even you've got your headphones in as well. So you're just like right in your bubble. There's nothing there distracting you at all. So you go and practice your driver because you're having troubles with your driver and you're losing 6 balls around a golf. So you go, logical thing is I got to get better at hitting driver straighter. So you go to the range and you start hitting balls. And as a human being, we adapt and change to whatever environment we're in, and you'll start to hit the ball better. If I gave you 100 balls and you just hit 100 drivers in the space of an hour, you will be better at hitting driver, right? That's just the way we are as human beings. We're really good at adapting and changing, finding those subtle little differences. And you'll sit there and you'll think, yeah, I've got this sorted. This is going to be great. So when I go there on Saturday in 2 days' time, I'm going to be perfect on that first tee and I'll be perfect on every single shot. So your expectation level's gone way up. But what you've got is what Jonah Oliver I heard describe as illusion of competence. So you think, yeah, I'm really good at driving the ball and therefore I'm never going to lose another ball on the golf course ever again. I've solved my problem. But the issue is that you have a few days off. You don't have time to practice. You've kind of been busy with work and family and every other commitment. And maybe you've gone out and had a drink or something on Friday night and you're playing first thing Saturday morning, a bit dusty, a bit dehydrated. Maybe you needed to drink a bit more water last night. But you're standing there on the first tee. Now, all of a sudden, that environment is nothing like the one you were just in on Thursday night. So you've now got grass. You've now got maybe a slightly uneven lie as well. You've now got 20, 30, maybe 100 people watching you from the clubhouse, or it feels like 1,000 or 10,000 watching you. You're nervous. You're expecting to go quite well on that first tee because you've done all the practice on Thursday. So it must be there now. Yeah, that's the secret. After all, practice makes perfect. So you stand there and all of a sudden you duff that first tee shot and you're like, wow, it's a real shock to the system. You sit there and you think, hang on a minute, wait, that didn't feel anything like what I was doing on Thursday night. What's going on here? And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. And number one is you're probably aiming in a very different direction. It might only be 15 degrees Celsius as opposed to it was 25 and perfect on Thursday night. Now you're cold, you've got a jumper on, you've got all those people standing around watching you, you've got expectations about trying to hit the fairway in front of the ball and having a good result, so not making a fool of yourself. So you get all nervous and tense and tight. And then you've also got the expectation sitting there going, okay, well, sorry, not the expectation, but what you've been doing at the range was just getting into a rhythm. And you may have had your ball position in some weird spot or your alignment out, but because you're hitting so many of them, you just adapted really well to that position. But then when you're not warmed up and you haven't hit 100 balls and you've barely hit one leading up to this first tee shot, all of a sudden none of that is there. Your brain has forgotten a lot of that by the time you get there and you stuff that first tee shot. Yeah, you might be lucky. You might sit there and think, okay, just a one-off, doesn't matter. I'll be sweet. Get to the second tee. This time you didn't top it, but you sliced it way out to the right. Now, you didn't hit one slice like that in the last 30 balls that you hit at the range. But you've forgotten about maybe the first 20 balls were all big slices, and then you adapted pretty quickly when you were hitting a ball every 10 seconds, 15 seconds. But you've just had 15 minutes between your first tee shot and your second tee shot. And you're like, oh, man, now your confidence is taking a massive hit because that illusion of confidence you had beforehand, it's showing up that it was just an illusion. It wasn't competence. What you were doing on the range was actually practicing something that was nothing like the actual game in so many ways. Yeah, you might have had a drive in your hand. Yeah, you had a ball on the tee, but you didn't have to hit in a completely different direction. At Emerald Lakes, the first hole goes this way, second hole goes that way. And then the third comes back the other way. So you've got different angles, you've got different winds, you've got different kind of shadows and stuff to deal with. You've got slopes and all sorts of stuff. And then you have the pressure of having penalties on the left side or the right side or different places to go. And then you have the ground staff put the tee markers pointing out to the right-hand trees instead of down the middle of the fairway. And because you've been so used to lining up to this square mat and being everything perfect, you line up to the markers and you hit this one straight out the right side. So it had nothing to do with your golf swing. It was all about alignment. And it's because you haven't actually trained your alignment away from dead straight down the mat every single time. You've got to go this way, that way, that way. You've got to create the chaos that is golf out there. So that's one of the huge reasons why practice doesn't make perfect. If your practice is nothing like what you're going to do out on the golf course, like it's got to be purposeful. It has to be random to a degree. It has to be learning and adapting and changing and building the skill of setting up to a ball in different directions with different conditions and under pressure and creating games on the range where there's a consequence if you don't hit it in that imaginary fairway. Like you hit it right of that target, that means you've missed the fairway to the right in your head and you've hit it in the water, hasn't had a penalty. Now, all of a sudden, you walk off the range not feeling all that great about your driving like you did when you hit 100 balls in a row, but you've probably got a far more realistic understanding of what's likely going to happen when you're under a bit of pressure, because out of 10 balls trying to hit that imaginary fairway, you hit 6 in the fairway, 3 went right, 1 went left. And then you did it again the next training session and it was the same kind of numbers. Well, you better aim left on your next shot. So unless you're practicing like that, there's a hell of a lot of wasted time, and that's the most valuable resource any one of us have. But the other one is probably the money you're spending on the range balls as well. I would more than happily say to you, don't even bother practicing if that's how you're going to do it. If you want to play better golf on the golf course, if you want to be a range rat and just feel really good about hitting balls and going great at the driving range, great. But do not come bitching and moaning about the fact that your golf game doesn't reflect what was going on at the range, because you're not training for playing golf. You're training to hit balls better at the range. So you're just kidding yourself, right? And you think some black magic descends upon you when you get on the first tee. No, your practice sucks. It's just shit. You've got to get better at it. So that's one of the big things that most people don't see that, because the range is easy and it's set up to be easy and it's a great business model for a golf facility. It's a great business model for a swing instructor to just sit there for an hour and give you all this instruction about getting a perfect swing. You hit it good right in front of him. Hey, look, happy days. You're a better golfer. Great. Now go ahead and you'll play better on the course. And we know that doesn't transfer either, because you haven't had that opportunity to do some really solid training where you have evidence that says, yeah, this new change actually works. So there's nothing wrong with the information the pro's given you, but what really sucks is the training, the lack of training, the lack of feedback in between lessons and stuff. So there's another reason why the range doesn't work very well at all. And it's not the pro's fault. It's the model's fault, right? It's the fact that you go for a lesson thinking that's what's going to cure your golf game on the golf course, but it's never done on the golf course and you don't know what the real problems are as well. So that's another huge problem, but I'll get into that in another day. So one of the things you need to think about is what am I doing when I practice? What am I here for? What's the purpose? What's the intention of this practice session? Am I here to just feel better about hitting a golf ball? Or am I here to feel better about playing better golf on the golf course in 2 days' time or for the next month? Now, if that's the case, you need to look at your practice in a very different way. It's not just beating balls. You probably need to practice all the different skills in the game, because even if you hit driver on every hole you can hit driver at your golf course, just like most golf courses, well, maybe there's 4 par3s, which leaves you 14 left. Chances are there's probably a few holes where you can't take driver because you'll hit it too far and it'll end up going in a water hazard, or it'll be, through the corner or something like that. So you've got to take an iron or a hybrid or a 3-wood just so you don't run out of room. So now all of a sudden you might only be hitting 10 drivers. And when you look at your score of 95, I'm pretty sure that 10 shots doesn't add up to actually reducing your score very much. Now you might lose 2, 3 balls, 6 balls even. Well, okay, then maybe there's another 10 shots there. But where's all the rest of them coming from? It's not from that driver. So you better be practicing the other parts of the game, putting especially, 40% of the game. You're talking about chipping as well, inside 100 metres, being way more, like a 60% part of the game than the long game. So number one, you better structure your practice to be more like the game of golf, in that you're doing a little bit of everything, especially if you haven't got much time to practice. You need to be doing that a lot. And then the other thing is you need to, first of all, understand, some people actually sit there and think, I'm not even going to bother practice because there's no point. If I just practice, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I may as well just play the game and, just deal with whatever I've got and that'll be it. So there's a solution to that as well. And that is that you just can get an on-course assessment done of your golf game. It's what I come to realize quite a few years ago when I came off of the tour and I started giving lessons at a driving range, which is what I got taught to do for 20 years beforehand in my traineeship. And it was like, after about a year or so of doing that, I'd had enough, that I was getting sick of helping people improve their golf swings. They're improving their ball striking, yet they're not scoring any better on a golf course. And it was doing my head in, because I just spent 10 years helping people on the golf course play better golf real quickly. And the main reason was what they thought the problem wasn't actually the problem 90% of the time. So I started helping people how to make better decisions and how to pick the right types of shots in the right circumstances and aim in the right areas. But I also made them aware of what they were actually doing. They thought they were aiming down the middle of the fairway, but they were actually aiming in the right-hand trees and wondering why the ball went in the right-hand trees all the time. Okay, see, there's something wrong with my swing. It goes in the right-hand trees. Said, no, that's where you're aiming. You made a great swing and a great shot right in the right-hand trees. Well done. So that was something that I needed to change. So that's what I start doing now. And I do on-course assessments with people. And in the space of 3 holes, I've worked out their game pretty quickly because I've been doing it for a long time. I know where the strengths are. I know where the weaknesses are. And I have a saying that if I can see you look like you know what you're doing, then you're probably going to be fine. But most of the time, I'm looking at what people do before the shot, after the shot, in between shots, and seeing, are they problem solving well before the shot? Are they executing a good setup like they think they're doing? Are they reacting well to shots? Are they then preparing for the next shot and well and truly over the last one before they get onto this one? Yes, a lot of those things people just aren't doing at all. And they want to be consistent at golf, and all of a sudden they're not consistent at any of that. So the first thing is I'm able to show them that. And then we can go, right, you want to break 90? Well, this is where you are. This is where you're starting from. And that's why I do an on-course assessment, because in all the years of giving lessons at the driving range where you, the amateur, came to me and said, I want to fix my golf swing and then I'll be able to break 100 every time. And you do that as the pro, and they're still shooting 105 because their putting sucks, their chipping sucks, they can't get out of a bunker, and they're picking drivers in situations where they shouldn't be picking them anyway. And Rory McIlroy wouldn't be doing it at that point. So they don't know. Their golf IQ is no good. So once you understand what all that is, we can start picking off the lowest hanging fruit. We can go, hey, let's focus on this and this straight away in your golf game just by making better decisions without changing your technique at all. And then we can work on these skills, because these are the 3 areas that are going to make the biggest difference to your score, because we've had a look at your stats and we go, yeah, look at this. Look how many putts you have. You have 40 putts. We can just get that 35 as an average. That's 5 shots off your score. We're now halfway to breaking, 100 because you've been shooting 110. And then we go, hey, if we can get on the green in 1 chip shot more often, that's going to save you at least 3 shots in a round as well. And then we lose 2 less balls because you're not picking drivers and targets that you shouldn't be doing. All of a sudden, there's 10 shots. And you've hardly even practiced the skill, and you probably haven't even touched your golf swing because it's just not the major priority at that point in time. But then having said that, you can then work on it at the same time and try and make incremental improvements in those areas as well. Because then, we might pick the lowest hanging pieces of fruit first, but then you want to pick the next ones up. And then maybe somewhere in there's a bit of technique. So I'm not someone that will tell you that technique's not part of it, but it's definitely not the number one priority that I've seen for most people when they play the game. So what should you do about your practice? Well, I would say number one, if you've never had a professional, a golf coach, someone who knows what they're talking about, who knows how to play the game very well, out on the golf course with you, watching everything you do for at least 9 holes, and then providing you with a snapshot of exactly where you are, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and then providing a plan about these are the things you'd need to focus on to get to that goal you want to get to, then you shouldn't even bother going practicing yet. You're wasting your time because you don't know if what you're doing is actually going to improve those results you're looking for. So that's one of the biggest frustrations I've had for years now. I'm trying to change it as much as I possibly can. And if you'd like to go and do that, I'll give you, now, maybe you can't come and see me because I obviously definitely do that. I would suggest you go to your golf pro who you maybe only ever had swing lessons at the driving range with and said, listen, I want you to take me on the golf course. And they should be able to do that. I'll guarantee you that the vast majority have a playing lesson or an experience like that you can go and do. Some of them, it might be more expensive than a normal lesson because you might be out there for 2 hours. I can safely say that you probably shouldn't pay more than your normal hourly rate, but you should definitely be out there with a couple of other people because you don't play golf by yourself, right? So you should probably be out playing in the normal kind of environment while the pro watches and see what you do with the way you react to other people and shots and all sorts of stuff. So you want to be nervous. You want to make mistakes. You want to have the pro see everything. And then you want to be honest with yourself and be open to suggestions and go, right, let's actually focus on this stuff. And then you can go to them and say, right, I now want to buy a package, a program, a series of things that focus specifically on these lowest hanging pieces of fruit. All right, and you spend time building the knowledge up with them. And then you'd also say to them, do you have an environment where I can train with others on these things where you can just do a quick little check-in with me? Or maybe they need to have an online app where you can send them regular updates about your stats on that particular game or how you went with your chipping and your bunker play and your insights, and you can just put it in there and then they respond at some stage between your lessons as well. I think that's vital in this day and age as well for small feedback loops to help you to stay on track without heading off in the wrong direction. So that's what I would suggest. Go to your pro, ask them if they do that and can you provide these things. Now, if they can't do that, then you've got to find someone who can. Now, it's getting more prevalent in the game. Things are starting to change. And then if you're still having problems, contact me. And what I'll do is I'll put together something online, which I can do. Use Coach Now, which is an app that can work online. But I can also give you some own self-assessment things where you can sit there and go, okay, I can start to see where my shots are going now. And this might be where I actually need to focus my attention. So by all means, send me a message. You'll be able to do that somewhere in this video underneath, just a direct message or even email at paulwillgolf@gmail.com. Just something that I can help you with if all those other avenues fail. But I'll guarantee you that if you just start doing that, the first thing you got to do is if you want to get to here, break 90, break 100, whatever that is, then you need to know where you're starting from first so that you can then focus on the key things that will get you there. It's like a GPS, working out where you're starting from first before it starts giving you the different routes you can take. So there's my brain dump on why I think the range is a joke in terms of giving you confidence on the golf course and what the problems are about that. Now, if you want to get deeper into some of the other stuff, you can definitely have a look at these videos that I'll have at the end here in my playlists and on YouTube here to help you to understand my philosophy a bit more on why most people have so much trouble transferring their range game to the course, why 90% of what you do and causes your problems on a golf course has got nothing to do with your swing technique and you're spending all your time in that 10%. Hopefully I start to open your eyes up a little bit. Hopefully I start to get you to question some things a bit more. And hopefully you can get some benefit from this, that even if all you did was that you started thinking about the way you behave when you go for a practice session, is this actually trying to get me better on the golf course rather than just make me feel better right now? If you just did that for me, you will start to become a better golfer where it counts out on the golf course. So thanks for listening and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.